Hello and welcome. I'm Nick.
I'm Jets News.
This is Top Notch Sports. All right, listen. Today we're going to do the 32 GM content creator mock draft for the New York Jets. It was a big deal. Okay, this event was huge. Some guys may have lasted longer than we thought they would have. Some guys might have got taken earlier than we thought they would have. It was a big thing. First, I just want to hear about Jets, your experience of the entire event. What did you think, and how do you think you did ultimately?
Yeah, I love the experience. I'm glad we were able to find, a full house of 32 GMs. Great idea by Nick. I thought it went well. I like the prospects I took. I think they all have roles for this team. And yeah, I'm excited to get to it.
Absolutely. And again, now another thing too, I want to mention real fast. You run a Jets page. Tell them your page and tell them a little bit about it.
Yeah, so my page, I started it about in December 2022. It's jets._.news. You can follow me on Instagram. I've been a fan since 2007. I cover the Jets, news, reports, rumors, plus a lot more mock drafts, whatever you want to do. I got everything.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a phenomenal page. I don't care what fan you are. If you want to hear New York Jets news, it's a really good spot to go. So again, I highly recommend going there. All right, that's that. The whole draft experience. It was an interesting thing. Let me just ask you this before we go into the slides. Is there anybody that you think, I mean, without giving names, is there anybody that slid to you that you liked or that you felt like went a little early that you wish you got? I'll let you touch on that for a little bit.
Yeah, there was definitely a couple prospects that fell to me that I didn't think would fall. Nothing really works out the way you think it's going to work out. The draft is so unpredictable, so players are all over the place. We'll get into it later, but I did trade up because there was a prospect I really liked that I did not think would fall that far. And there's a couple picks, maybe really only one that I took that somewhat regret, maybe thought I might have reached on, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Absolutely. So again, overall, really good draft by you, I think, and we'll get into all that. I mean, you made moves and you were in the shoes of an actual GM. And like you said, come Thursday when the Jets are actually on the clock and stuff, we're gonna see a lot of similarities here. Like everyone thinks, the media says, oh, this guy's supposed to go in the fifth round. And in real life, he might go in the third. Or someone might say, hey, this guy's gonna go in the second, and he falls to the fifth. The national media always has their bias towards a few players. And ultimately, like I said, when you get into a live draft event like this, you may be very high on the same player that another GM is. And the media is not high on that player. We all kind of look at the same stuff, the physical traits, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that's why some guys fly off boards a lot earlier than we think. But again, I think you had an all around good draft. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hop to the slide. So let's do that now.
180. 180 set.
All right, here we go. These two. Let's touch on these two a little bit before we even get into this. Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson. What do you think about these two guys?
So Salah, they brought him in. It was a great hire, especially at the time. He was definitely the best candidate available. High energy, players coach. He's great for building great character in players, has great relations with everyone. Great for the locker room all around. Defensive minded coach. We saw that big jump in the defense his first year. The defense was 32nd ranked, like worst in all categories. Second year, he turned it around. Look at their defense last year, top five defense. Passing, running game was all great all around. Um, Credit to him for that. Zach Wilson, you know how I feel about him. I'll touch on it though. So Wilson coming out of college, great prospect, has all the tools really. Just, needs a lot of developing, needs a lot of work. Great arm strength. He's an athletic player, but the mentality isn't really there for him. And we were hoping to see that develop, but it seems like he can't understand where to go with the ball. He doesn't understand defensive zones or schemes or anything really. He stares down receivers a little too much. At this point in his career, I think he will end up being on the team next year, but I do think it would be best for him to try out a new atmosphere, go to a new team with a different scheme. Because here, I mean, he's had over, I don't know the exact number, somewhere around 25 starts, plenty of opportunity, and a pretty QB friendly offense. So at this point in his career, I think it's time for him to move on, and it's time to, move on to the next quarterback for the Jets. It's time to move on to Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. So again, that's been the consensus. Now, again, I'm going to give you my input from an outsider point of view. Love Robert Saleh, like you said. I think this guy's awesome. I love the signing when you guys hired him and stuff. Also love Zach Wilson coming out as a prospect, like you said. Now, again, he's had struggles, and I can't strictly put that on coordinators or, system or players around him, et cetera, et cetera. But I do feel like if they put a little bit of confidence in this guy and let him just, and I know the Jets fans right now are going to be like, this guy's nuts, get him out of here. And listen, they're more than welcome to have that opinion. That's why you're the Jets guy. But I mean, you got a guy with all the tools. It just sucks to say that his time might already be up in the New York Jets. I could have sworn when you guys drafted this guy, he was going to be your future. And right now, it's not looking like so. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I think this kid has all the tools, but like you said, he hasn't done anything. And how long are you going to wait? In today's NFL, you got to be, like I believe Robert Saleh always says, like instant tea or something, or coffee. I forget. He always says something.
Coffee, you got it.
Yeah, he wants, he's saying that in today's NFL, everyone wants a quick, instant boom, a guy that pops right away. And, back in the day, that wasn't always the thing. So he's keep on playing it like Zach Wilson's going to be the guy going forward. We've heard that multiple times. I don't know what to think. I mean, what do you honestly think? I mean, like you said, you want to see Wilson go somewhere else and maybe have a new atmosphere. Do you think that's going to happen?
It's not going to happen this year, I'll tell you that, because, first round quarterback, rookie contract, you can't get out of it.
Yeah.
It's a cap casualty. If you lose him this year, you lose money. You don't gain anything. So it only hurts you. It only hurts you in terms of cap. So he's going to be on the roster. I don't think he should touch the field this year. I think he really needs to take this year to learn, under Aaron Rodgers, who actually was one of his idols growing up. And I mean, the plan, and the way the Jets should operate is, best case scenario, Wilson learns from Rodgers. Rodgers is obviously retiring in a year or two, and maybe Wilson can take the reins from there. Maybe he can learn and develop. And if not, then you move on. You either draft another quarterback, grab another one in free agency and let Wilson try it out somewhere else.
Absolutely. I like that. All right. Enough with that. Now let's go into the next slide. All right. Here's my grade scale. This is literally what we're going to do. So I'm going to break it down to all the fans and to you to make sure this makes sense. This is what we're going to grade you on. Okay. You're trading throughout the draft if you made trades. You're drafting as an overall standpoint. So again, how you overall did in the draft. This is something that, again, it's based off of talent and need, just the overall thing. Trades, talent, need all combined. You get a draft grade. Talent, what kind of talent you drafted, whether it was good or not, and then need. Did you get the spots that, really are holes on the team right now? Did you fill in those needs in the draft? With that being said, we got a number, a number and grade chart over here. Okay. And again, I want to stress this out that again, okay, 50 might look really ugly. Okay. 50% looks hideous. I mean, in real life, that's an F. But in this grade scale, it's actually a C plus. So if 50 is not a bad grade, I want to make sure I keep stressing that out. Again, a B plus is a 75 on this scale. Oh, that 75 sounds horrible. A B plus in real life is probably like an 88, 89. But again, on our grade scale, a 75 is really good. That's a B plus. So does this make sense to you? Again, the numbers look strange. The letter grade looks strange, but just understand that, you got to look at the brackets here. It really, lower numbers are actually not that bad on this scale. Does that make sense to you?
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right, cool. So now we're going to go to the first slide. Let's see what we got. Here is the actual depth chart. I'll let you break this down. This is what we're looking at in real life right now. What do you think about this team?
So it's a pretty solid roster, of course. The hole is at quarterback. Last year, we saw the defense was really successful. Top 5 defense. We really didn't see any departures other than LaMarcus Joyner left in free agency, but he was honestly the worst part of that defense, and he was replaced, quickly with Chuck Clark in that trade, which I think was great value. You're talking about, in my opinion, I report on the Jets, so maybe a little biased, but I think it's the best cornerback room in the league. You're talking about Sauce Gardner, who on his rookie, season was, had one of the best seasons as a corner in the entire league. DJ Reed, an underrated corner. I think he's very close to top 10 even. Could have an even better season. He's still young. You're talking about a great D line. You don't have that elite edge rusher, but you have just a bunch of guys. It's very deep. Quinn Williams is one of the best interior rushers in the league coming off his breakout season. We brought back Quincy Williams. And yeah, the defense is complete. Offensively, there's where we need a little work. Garrett Wilson's a star receiver who should only have a better year this year with Aaron Rodgers. We had a couple of changes, a couple of rotations at receiver. Brought in Alan Lazard, McCall Hardman. It's a decent receiver room, but definitely could be better. It's somewhere around average. You talk about the line. There's where you have another one of your big concerns. The interior is solid. AVT can be an all-pro guard if he can stay healthy this season. Connor McGovern is, a decent center, but that's all he is, decent, but he stays healthy. Tomlinson was very disappointing. We need to see a bigger season from him this year. But the real thing and the big thing I want to stress here as the biggest need was the offensive tackle position. I mean, you look at the two starters there, and it's not bad, right? Dwayne Brown is, a Pro Bowl guy who's been there many times before, but he's 39 years old, coming off a knee surgery. So you can't really rely on a guy like that to play a full 17-game season. Mekhi Becton has played, I think it was like 3/4 of one game in the past 2 seasons. So even though we saw, a lot of flashes his rookie year, he cannot stay healthy. So you can't rely on him either. And Breece Hall is another star back, but same thing. You got the injury concerns. So a lot of, injury prone guys, and that's the biggest concern. And I think that's kind of where I took my draft strategy was to kind of stabilize certain positions that are a little shaky. So, if we do see those same injuries that we've been seeing year in and year out, we're prepared for those injuries.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think that's very well said. I mean, I look at this team like this, like you said, very strong interior offensive line. You got good tackles when healthy, right? But again, you really got to question their health, both of them, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton right now. Receiver room, like you said, revamped receiver room with Hardman and Lazard. You also got Garrett Wilson, who was great last year. And your tight end room, I'm going to be honest with you, Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzama, very, very good tight end room, in my opinion, and that's that. Breece Hall, running back, my favorite running back coming out of that year's draft class. On the other side, if you want to put one here, you got Michael Carter. You know what I mean? I like him too. He's a more of a guy that you put in third down. He's you know what he is. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball pretty all right. Not going to be your number. Like I love that you brought in Breece Hall because I feel like Michael Carter can't be the workhorse back, and he wasn't when he was in college either. He had Javonte Williams with him over there. So again, it's kind of a 1-2 punch with Hall and Michael Carter from an outside point of view again. And you know this better than I do, but again, that's just how I look at it. You got two really solid running backs for this team right now. Defensive line, like Quinnen Williams is an absolute animal. Okay. And I'm in love. I love Jermaine Johnson. I thought he was one of the, if not the best, edge rushers out of last year's draft class. Not only is he a good pass rusher, but he's also a really good run stuffer. So again, I'm hoping that he gets more snaps this year because if I'm not mistaken, he didn't play that much last year, correct?
Right, about 33% of the snaps. That needs to see a big jump this year because he was great when he was on the field.
Absolutely. I like I said, I'm in love with that guy. I think he's great. Sauce Gardner, everyone knows about Sauce. And I'm going to be honest with you. I love the Jordan Whitehead signing. How did he play for you last year?
Little shaky, got to be honest. And he's still relatively young, so you're hoping he has a bounce back season this year. He will be here, but they gave him $8 million a year. He's expected to be a very good safety. Way too many missed tackles for him. He plays up in the box, so pretty close to the line of scrimmage. His role is to be good against the run. He's supposed to be making these tackles, and just way too many missed tackles last year. He's got to work on it.
There you go. See, that's why you're the insider. So, like I said, I liked him as a prospect. I liked him on, when he was in Tampa. But again, it is what it is, and we'll see how he transitions here. But all right, let me ask you this real fast. Biggest weakness with this current roster is what?
Well, if you want to talk about current, it's quarterback, but we all know Aaron Rodgers will be here probably by the end of the week. So outside of that, it definitely is tackle because of those injury concerns.
Absolutely. All right. So that's that. Enough said here. Now let's see the moves that you made as a general manager. All right, here we go. So here are your GM moves now, okay? And first I'm going to break down everything and then I'll let you touch on it. So we're not going to show you trade by trade exactly every little thing that happened. We're just going to show you everything you received and everything that you got rid of. So ultimately, you go out, you bring in Aaron Rodgers to shore up. You did the unthinkable. So let's give yourself a round of applause for that because, again, the odds of that now happening, right? We've been waiting months for this move to happen. You actually made it happen in the war room. You got it done. On top of that, you brought in TJ Slayton to lock up that defensive tackle role, whether he's a depth piece or whatnot. You brought him in. And then you brought in the 78th overall pick, the 108, and you brought in a next year's 6th round pick. Now, you gave up Denzel Mims at the wide receiver position, Jeremy Rucker, and cornerback Bryce Hall. You gave up the 43rd overall pick, the 112 overall pick, a 2023 fifth round 143rd overall pick, and the 149th overall pick this year as well. And next year, you gave up a conditional pick depending on how Rodgers does with the Jets. A 3rd round pick if you miss the playoffs, 2nd round pick if you make the playoffs, and 1st if you make the Super Bowl. And you gave up a 5th round pick next year. So let me ask you this right now. Okay, looking at this right now from what we're seeing here, what do you ultimately see here in the sense of, let me sum it up this way too. Ultimately, what you moved down 30 spots, you moved up 4 spots, but you also brought in Aaron Rodgers and TJ Slayton. Denzel Mims hasn't really been special for you guys at all since you drafted him. Jeremy Rucker, I love him as a prospect, but again, with Uzama and Conklin, you really don't need him. And then Bryce Hall, again, I don't think that like that's breaking, anything at all, hurting anything for your guys' team at all. So ultimately, what do you see with the trades that you made?
Yeah, so we bring in Aaron Rodgers, right? We get our star quarterback that we want to, to take us all the way. This is a win now move. The Jets are kind of moving into win now rather than the rebuild, and they have to because they started this rebuild, when they got Salah and a few years ago. So they need to make moves to win now, and that's kind of what my mindset was here. If you'll notice, I made a lot of future. I departed with a lot of future picks rather than picks for this year because we kind of want to bolster that roster to take us all the way this year. A lot of Jets fans are mad at me for giving up Rucker, but he's not going to do anything this year. When I'm making these moves, my mindset is how can I improve the roster for this year, not the future. And all 3 of those players, they're not players that are going to play this year. Mims and Hall have had their opportunities. They're depth pieces at this point. They're backups. So it really doesn't hurt to get rid of them. Rucker is a guy that, we hope would turn into a starting tight end eventually. But, we have, like you said, Conklin and Uzama under contract making a good amount of money too. Not just this year, but next year also. So my kind of mindset, like I said, was bolster the roster this year. I brought in a couple picks for this year. I actually traded up in the draft to get the best talent possible for this year's team. Even if that, means that I had to part with future draft picks instead. And the last thing I'll say is I really like that conditional pick that I got for 2024 or that I had to give up because a lot of the conditions that are going around now that people think the Jets are going to attach is a condition based on Rodgers' retirement. I like this condition more because, the likelihood of the Jets making the Super Bowl is not, very high. So it's more likely than not the Jets aren't giving up a 1st round pick next year, which most Packers, fans and insiders, news, whatever, would demand a 1st round pick next year.
Absolutely. And again, in all reality, it's probably going to be a 2. I think it's fair to say that's most likely going to be a 2nd round pick right next year. And again, you're bringing in a future Hall of Fame quarterback that's, a phenomenal guy and they can probably get this roster over the top. And hey, who knows? Maybe you guys do make the Super Bowl. So we'll wait and see. All right, now your draft picks, okay? Real fast, let me just break this down. The guys in purple are guys that you drafted at your original pick. Guys in blue are guys that you drafted with an unoriginal pick that you traded for. So again, 78 and 108 are listed here. Let's start with your first pick. Give it a little bit about offensive tackle Peter Skronsky that you got in the 1st round.
So I was thrilled when Skoronski fell to me. I did not think he would fall. I thought the 13th pick would probably be Broderick Jones. I thought Johnson and Skoronski would be off the board. I was, like I said, thrilled when he fell to me. So I took him immediately. I put in the pick right away because I already knew it was going to be him.
Ab-
Um,
yep.
so
Go ahead.
he's going to be an all-pro guard in the league if he plays guard. If he plays tackle, he'll be a good tackle. But most people do profile him as a guard for those short arms, that short length. But his technique is so good, it's the best in the class, that I think he can still play tackle at, a good level at least. And that's what the Jets would play him at. In his rookie season, he would probably start at right tackle. You would move Becton to left, and Brown and Becton can kind of battle it out with their injury concerns for who the starter is and the backup, but one of them will probably get hurt eventually anyway. So yeah, I have Skoronski starting at right tackle for the Jets. He's very versatile because I think he can play any position on the line except maybe center. For how big he is, he does move very well. And long term, the plan for him, like I said, this year you'd start him at right tackle. Um, like I said, we had some disappointment from Tomlinson at left guard. If we wanted to move off of Tomlinson after this year, maybe in the future you slide him down to guard and then you draft another tackle. That's what's great about having these versatile guys. I think Skoronski is one of those guys you can move around mid-season too. If you had some injuries, maybe the interior gets beaten down and you have to slide Skoronski to the inside. That shouldn't be a problem. And that's what I love about him most is that versatility.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, he played left tackle a lot on film this year, but like you said, he can play wherever. And like you mentioned too, it's a real possibility he does get bumped inside if he struggles at offensive tackle, which is not a bad thing. It just shows you that this is a guy that you're drafting that can do a little bit of everything. And again, the thing about him is that like he is a pretty good. He can anchor down very well, which means that linemen can't blow him up. Like they don't blow him back. The one thing I did notice about him that I don't love, especially being a tackle, is that I didn't see that he had really flexible hips. And that means that sometimes with a quick edge rusher, he struggles to be able to wash them around the quarterback. But again, though, this is a guy that, like you said, year one can absolutely compete for the starting job, probably get for sure. Like, I don't see, like you said, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton are probably going to be, spotted in the same position. And whoever the hell gets injured first is going to lose a job, So you got those two. And then you got Skoronski on the other side, which, again, like you mentioned, his shorter arms, 32-inch arms, not as long as you want him to be. But there's been guys in the NFL that have really succeeded with shorter arms before. So that's not even a big concern for me. The only concern I had was that he didn't have the most flexible hips. But again, my number one ranked offensive tackle this year's draft class, at least as of right now. I might make some shuffling around, but I really like that pick. And again, he fell right into your lap. So I thought it was a great pick for you. All right, let's go to the second pick. Wide receiver, the Daniel Dell. Damn, I couldn't spit that out. Go ahead.
So Dell, he fell to me at pick 42 in the early to mid second round. Most of the national media will have this guy they're a little bit lower on him, like late second round, maybe even early third. I'm a little bit higher on this guy than everyone else, and that's why I took him. He's very quick and shifty. I have him as one of the best route runners in the class. A lot of these guys, they round off their routes at the top of the route and they don't actually cut. This is one of those guys that never does that. He actually cuts in his route, so he already has pretty solid technique. He should be a good receiver on day one. Like I said, quick change of direction, shifty guy. He's great in the open field, so he's a playmaker, one of those guys that you can, just throw a little screen to and let him do his thing in the open field. He can stop and re-accelerate at a very quick rate. He also has return ability, so he can return kicks and punts for the Jets. His role for the Jets, I would have him as a slot receiver. I don't think he can play outside. That's one of his weaknesses. He's not very physical. He's limited in size, a small frame, pretty short wingspan as well, so that catch radius is a little bit limited. He won't be able to win against press, so again, that's why I have him on the inside. For the Jets, we would have Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard on the outside, and then Mecole Hardman and Nathaniel Dell on the inside. Whichever one looks better in training camp, wins the starting role, will get on the field more. But either way, Dell will be on the field. He just might be, at worst, he might be that fourth receiver that kind of rotates in at the slot position. And last thing I'll say is with this move, Corey Davis would be cut. He is a cap casualty, $10.5 million. there's no reason to carry that many good receivers. That was kind of my mindset in taking Dell. I saw a guy that I was high on at a position that would become a need if we were to cut Corey Davis. So in this scenario, Davis would be cut and he would replace him.
Absolutely. And again, Nathaniel Dell, 5'8", 165, 4.49 40, ran a little bit slower than I thought he would. But I'll tell you something. I don't even look at that as a knock. The only thing I look at him is that he's a little bit small and a little bit, 165 is a little bit, light. But man, did his tape stick out to me. This was a guy, I remember I scouted him before the Senior Bowl, the Reese's Senior Bowl, and then everyone saw like that one clip of him absolutely shaking somebody up, and they're like, oh man, this guy's great, yada yada. I was like, I had this guy ranked as one of my top receivers already because again, like if you don't look at his physicals, 165, which is concerning. I said he's one of the most explosive and most agile players I've ever watched. I mean, I'm being honest. Like he is so explosive, so agile, it's crazy. He has great agility and is another, like you said, a phenomenal return man as well. And I believe you guys just moved on from Braxton Berrios, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
So here you go. This could be the replacement here too. And again, he could be one of those gadget guys, for you in your offense too, slot receiver, however the hell you want to use him. He's a really special player. I think he could be good. All right, third round pick. Your defensive tackle, Saiki Ika. What the hell do you think about him?
So Ika, same type of thing. Fell to me in the third round. I was a little bit higher on him. I had him as a late round 2, maybe early round 3 prospect. Massive guy. He's huge. He's one of those guys who's just going to fill in gaps. I had him as my defensive tackle 6 on the interior. Weighing in at 6'4", 357 pounds. I mean, he's the biggest tackle here. He's going to play on early downs, running downs. He's going to just fill in space and force runners to go to the outside to guys like Jermaine Johnson or, Quinnen Williams. It's going to open up the game for those kind of guys. He's a pure strength guy. He can get off blocks just using that strength. Of course, his knock is he's not going to be as, athletic or fast. Of course, he's not going to get to the quarterback. He's not going to be this, great pass rusher. And I think that's why a lot of people are a little bit lower on him maybe than I am, because in today's league, everyone wants a pass rusher. But for the Jets, I think this kind of guy made a lot more sense because they already have plenty of pass rushers on that D-line. The one thing that they're kind of missing with their defense is somebody who can stuff the run and slow down that run game, and that's what this guy can do. He's only going to get, like I said, a couple sacks a year maybe, but he's going to open up the game. Even on those passing downs, he could open up the game for Williams if he demands a double team just because of how big he is. He'll play on, first, second down when against heavier packages, against run packages, and maybe on third and short situations when they're going to run up the middle.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, big guy, hole clogger, probably going to take up 2 lanes. Let's be honest, 2 gaps. Big guy. You got Quinnen Williams on the opposite side of him. This defense would be absolutely potent between these two. And like you said, most people don't value these guys because, they're going to get 2 or 3 sacks a season, maybe 4. But hell, the difference he's going to make on the defense is all that matters. He's going to be filling up 2 lanes and opening up spots for Johnson and Williams, to get through on the defensive line. So I like Siaki Ika for sure. Let me tie up the next 2 together. Christopher Smith, free safety, and Habokuk Balanado. I don't even know. Defensive end in the 6th round. What do you think about these 2 and how do they help you out?
Christopher Smith probably was one of my favorite picks here, even though it's a later round pick. Like I said, when I went into this draft, I wanted to take guys that are going to make an impact this year. Even though this guy was taken 4th round, I think he can help the team this year. People value this type of role lower as well. A free safety, a deep zone, rangy guy. He doesn't play up near the line of scrimmage like almost every other safety in this class does. He's not going to help you in the run game. He's not going to be a high impact guy either, but he's going to lock down the deeper part of the field. And that's what the Jets were missing last year, losing LaMarcus Joyner. And now we have Chuck Clark and Jordan Whitehead. They're both, Clark is versatile, but both of them, their best skill sets are playing up and closer to the line of scrimmage. This is a guy who can lock down the back end of the field with great coverage. He is a field general. He, recognizes offensive plays. Again, another thing that barely any of the other safeties can do here is recognize plays. I have him as a late round 2 prospect. He's one of my favorite safeties in this class. 5'11", 195 pounds. The only thing is, a little bit on the unathletic end compared to the other guys. Could put on a little bit of weight, get a little quicker. Not as physical, not going to be as good in the run game. He does struggle to get off blocks at times, but that's okay because we're not going to put him in a role where he has to get off blocks and be a force in the run game. And I did trade up for him. I packaged away pick 143 and 149 to move up to 108 and grab him.
Awesome.
And I'll move on to Baldonado. He was taken in the 6th round. Developmental pass rusher here. He's the one guy that I don't think will have a role this year. I think every other pick is gonna contribute to taking this roster over the top this year. This guy is someone who's just a depth piece. He's not gonna touch the field unless we have a bunch of injuries this year. He's a lighter guy. Should probably put on some weight. Only 6'5", 260 pounds at the edge position. I did have him as an early 6th round pick, which is where I took him. He's pretty athletic. He plays with the high motor. He's quick off the snap, actually has one of the best jumps in the class. Has ideal length. It's just that his he is on the lighter end, so he has plenty of room to put weight on that frame. So if he were to put some weight on, he could have a really solid build for the position. A lot of technical things he does have to work on, has to lower that pad level, needs to use his hands more and get more violent with them. And, a lot of times he fails with that. He'll fail with his first move. And if he does, he doesn't really have a second. He doesn't have a plan B to counter that. So he kind of just, doesn't give up on the play, but is unable to disengage from blocks. And that's about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, these are the guys that you guys brought in. I mean, it's a really nice looking draft. I mean, you attacked most of your needs. So on the next slide now, we're going to go and look at what exactly you ended up doing. All right, so here we go. Here are the moves that you made. So before we even look at this, let's compare this to this. And I'm going to flip it back and forward so the viewers can see it real fast so they can see the changes that you made. The guys in blue are the guys that you drafted. The guys in, that pinkish color are the, the guys that you traded for, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to stay here now, okay? Here's the moves that you made. What do you think about this roster and what, like, just overall, give me a, an opinion based off the moves that you made here.
Yeah, I think it's a really good roster. The biggest upgrade is certainly Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. You're talking about the worst starting quarterback up to who's probably still a top 10 quarterback in today's league, even at the age of 40. He's going to be 40 pretty soon. We grabbed the starting tackle at right tackle, solidified that position, and doing that helps us slide back into left tackle, which, hopefully one of those two guys can stay healthy. And outside of that, you don't have any starters, but you have guys who have roles, right? So Dell potentially could be a starter, could play over Hardman. At worst, he's a gadget player. Either way, he has a role in the offense. At best, he's a starting slot receiver. We move to the defensive side of the ball. We've got Siaka Ika playing at starting defensive tackle on those early rushing downs. Not playing much of the passing downs, but if he does, could still take up space, open up the game for Carl Lawson, Quentin Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Clemens, Huff, JFM. I could go on because this D-line is so deep. And then safety, we brought in Smith, is going to play on those passing downs, and then you can, slide Clark over to strong safety on those passing downs and rotate him with Whitehead.
Absolutely. So again, this is a really strong roster. And like you said, you look at what you did. I mean, you got a ton of wide receiver depth. You still got the tight end depth. You got a great running back room. You made a huge upgrade at the quarterback position. You got a really good interior offensive line. You got, flexibility now at the tackle position between Skoronski, Brown, and Becton. And again, your hope would probably be Becton and Skoronski are the future of this team if they can both stay healthy. Love Elijah Vera Tucker. Laken Tomlinson, like you said, kind of disappointed a little bit last year, but I love the signing when you guys brought him in. Ika and Williams, two big guys locking down the inside. Lawson and Johnson coming off the edge. Really solid team here. Really solid team. And when you compare it to this, I mean, I like the moves that you make, and I feel like this team can absolutely compete. So now I'm going to go to this one. What do you think about this? Is your team right now? What do you think this team's going to be able to do?
The actual depth chart?
Yeah, the actual depth chart. Yep.
Yeah, the actual depth chart isn't finalized because we all know Rodgers will be here, but it is a roster that after the draft I think will look a little better also. I do think the Jets will go in a similar direction in the real draft to how I went, and they'll probably grab a D tackle, maybe a safety, maybe they even go receiver also. Either way, the roster is pretty good to where they should be able to get to the playoffs, even if they don't make drastic upgrades in the draft. Of course, the hope is you go all the way to a Super Bowl. You have only a short window here with Rodgers retiring in the next couple years. You've got, 1 to 2 years at most, and then you run into your, same problem where you got to find another new quarterback, which the Jets, cannot do. They cannot draft quarterbacks. But yeah, you're hoping you can get to the Super Bowl. I don't see how this team would not make the playoffs next year. If they weren't to make the playoffs, would be a complete disaster. You'd have to restart the team, but I don't see that happening. I think they will be a team that competes this year. Maybe they can make a run at the division, and maybe they can make a run all the way.
And the big thing here is at the end, we know they're going to get Rodgers. Just how much are they going to give up? And then, all that. But all right, going back to what you did real fast, and then we're going to sum this up very shortly. With the moves that you made, with the roster that you built, what do you think the outcome is here record-wise? How do you finish in the division? And then playoff-wise, what do you think if they make the exact moves that you make, how far do you think they go?
With these moves, I do think they can compete to pretty much go all the way. I think they can definitely compete in their division. The division looks like it's up for grabs right now. I do think the Bills might slightly regress next year. And I think they can compete with the Bills. The Bills are still a great team and all. But they do look like, they're beatable right now. The Jets did go 1-1 with them next year or last year, and this year I think they have a chance to do that again and a chance to even win their own division. I think this roster can finish, the season about somewhere, at least 10 wins. Certainly that's the floor, to go 10-7. And I think their ceiling is probably 12-5, somewhere in that range. I think they will finish first or second in their division. And I think they will make it somewhere between the divisional round and the Super Bowl.
I absolutely agree. I got you slotted in. If these are moves that you make, I think you probably end up going around 10-7. I would probably say, I mean, again, because the AFC East is not, I know that you said that's the floor, which I 100% agree with you. Like, that is the floor. But the whole thing is that I think you steal a few games from the Bills this year. I don't think the Bills go 13-3 again. I think the Dolphins are only getting tougher, especially if Tua can stay healthy for once. The Patriots are always decently tough. Again, they're by far the worst team in the division, though. I think 10-7 is fair. Probably finish second in the division. And I honestly see you guys make it to the divisional or conference championship round for sure. And again, if you can piece a few wins together, you're in the Super Bowl. All right. Now back to the actual depth chart here. Last thing I want to ask you before we look at your grade. What do you think they do in the first round in real life? Who do you think they're going to get? Who do you think they should take? What do you think is going to happen real fast on Thursday?
It's going to be offensive tackle unless the tackles do not fall to them. That's the first option. The big three, right? Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., and Broderick Jones. If any of the three are there, you're easily taking them. There's no other way to go about it. If they're not there, you really could go in a number of directions. Defensive tackle, you could go edge even maybe, but I doubt it. Wide receiver maybe, even if Njigba's still there. But ultimately, I think if the three tackles are not there, they should trade down, take a different tackle, one that, makes more sense, because there is a big gap between Broderick Jones and that fourth best tackle, whether it's Darnell Wright or Anton Harrison. I think there's a big gap there. And there's been, some talks of the Jets maybe even flipping 13 for 15 with the Packers, as a part of that Aaron Rodgers trade. And that may happen on draft day. If one of those three tackles doesn't fall, they may, go back 2 spots, trade for Rodgers on draft day, and then take, I don't know, Darnell Wright at 15 maybe. But it should definitely be an offensive tackle in the first round.
All right, so that's that. So now let's go to the main event. Final grades. Now, again, I want to make this clear. I actually don't know what they are right now because I forget what the hell we gave you. Again, this is a collective unit. Everyone, I got about 4 guys that, not the commissioner, not or anything. There were 4 other guys that we had that were, came in, looked at it, and gave you a grade. And we gave you an overall grade in all those 4 categories. We gave you GM points, et cetera, et cetera. The main thing about this is this. I want to hear your rebuttal right now, if there is one, or if you think it's fair. And then after that, like I said, maybe if you disagree with some of them, we can pull this back up, week 8 or at the end of the season and give you, added points because maybe we were wrong in some areas, or maybe we overgraded you in some areas. So we'll wait and see. So let's say the first grade you received is A. Trades, we gave you a B+. Ultimately, you got the unthinkable done. The thing that we've been waiting for months. You got it done in honestly a matter of seconds. You brought in Aaron Rodgers. You moved on from some pieces, but like you said, most of the pieces that you moved on from weren't going to make an impact right now. You moved down a few spots. You gave away the 43, 112. You picked up 78 and 108, but ultimately you bring in Aaron Rodgers to win now. So therefore, we give you a B+. What do you think about that grade to start?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Bringing in Aaron Rodgers is tough. You see in real life they cannot get this trade done, and Tyler and I got this thing done in one night on a Zoom call for a couple hours. We got it done.
Yep.
And it was the first trade done, out of any other team. So we got it done relatively quickly. I think it made sense for both of us. He got some players that I would imagine you probably gave him a decent grade. You guys gave him a decent grade as well, because I think it makes sense for both of us. They got some players that maybe they can develop and build up. We didn't give up a ridiculous amount of draft capital and, gave up a couple future picks so we can focus on winning now with Aaron Rodgers, which is what's best for us.
Absolutely. And again, I want to stress this too, that the amount of A- through A+ we've handed out, I don't think there's been a single A+ we've handed out. And I think we've handed out like 1 A-. So it is very, very tough to get into the A's. So again, B+ are really good. So again, B+ here, really good for you in the trade department. Now let's look at the next one. Draft. The overall draft point of view, we ended up giving you a B+, was our consensus. Again, you went out, you took a really good, my number 1 ranked offensive tackle. You got him all the way at, what was it, pick 15 it was?
13.
13. So, I mean, again, some other people went, to me, Peter Skronsky, was a great pick for you guys, and it locks down a position of need as well for you guys. You go out, you get Nathaniel Dell. I know, like you said, a lot of people are high on him. I'm high on him. I think I have him ranked as my number 10 wide receiver. You got him in the second round. Some wide receivers sort of flying off the board a little bit, between 1 and 2. I know some people reacted kind of strange to it. I think, again, with your vision, looking at how you want to use them, I think it's a really good pick too. Christopher Smith, Ika, those two guys too, going to make an immediate impact, especially Ika, to me, defensive tackle. Him and Williams are going to be a monster inside. So overall, looking at your trades, the talent, the fit, we ended up giving you a B+. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't blame other people for, thinking that maybe I didn't have as good of a draft as I thought or anything, because they might not understand the actual needs of the Jets, and that's kind of where I went. And in the draft, I went needs over really everything. Because every pick, 4th round and above, I think I got a player that'll contribute right away in some type of role. It's just, and I think in real life, if you'll see these players go into the proper role, I think you'll see them succeed in real life in the NFL. But yeah, I think I got good value at every position. I might be higher on certain guys than other people are. Dell, I'm very high on Dell. I have him as my wide receiver 6, early second round prospect. And I know a lot of people might not have him that high, but I do. So in my eyes, it's a very, very good draft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's look at the next one here. Talent of B. Now, here's where, again, I was fighting for you here. Nathaniel Dell, to me, like I said, I like Dell, but some people, like you said, thought that might have been a little bit of a reach. To me, again, I was battling it out with people. Ultimately, they go with a B. Let me hear your thoughts on that and whether or not you want to rebut that as well.
Yeah, I'll bring it to Dell because I do think Dell, I would assume, probably is what impacted the grade to bring it down a little bit. The biggest knock on Dell is his size, right? He's probably closer to the 165 end than 175 because I've seen all kinds of reports about his weight. We always know they like to fudge the number up a little bit to look a little bigger than they are. He's probably 165, maybe 170. He's got to put on some weight, but we've seen other guys, like, remember when Devontae Smith came out of college and he was like 170 or something like that, and he put on, I don't know, 10 pounds or so, and he's a great wide receiver now. I think Dell's a great player. I think he has what would help a receiver succeed right away, which is great route running, you know, manipulating that defender to get separation. That's something that if a lot of receivers, if they don't have that in college, it's difficult for them to develop that at the next level, being able to get separation and get open on their own. Um, you know, I think the talent is a little bit better in my eyes, but you know, that's fine. Everyone, you know, has their own opinions, and you know, I just the main thing for me is needs over everything. And like I said, I think a lot of the players that I took are gonna have roles on day one for the Jets and help contribute to a win now roster rather than, you know, a future roster down the line. I didn't take a lot of developmental players.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I agree with you on that. And that's what even concerns me with this next grade too, a B for need. Again, I feel like you honestly hit on every need that you needed. Like we talked about every position that you had. They go with a B. Now, real fast, I want to recap this too. Again, later on this season, we're going to go back and we're going to look at it and see if we, agree with these grades or not and readjust it depending on what it is. But what do you think about that? I mean, again, I want to stress this. A plus means, holy crap, you filled in every single hole. We have no questions asked. A minus would even mean like, holy crap, for the most part, it's all filled in. But a B still means you filled in most needs. But I really don't see much more on your roster that needs to be filled in. What do you think about the B?
Yeah, that's the one part of the grading I would probably rebuttal more than anything else. Just and B isn't a bad grade by any means. It's just that I think if anything, need should be a higher grade than like draft or trades or like anything else. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be a high grade, just I think it should be probably the highest grade compared to everything else, if that makes sense. Just
Yeah.
because I mean, you look at the Jets' needs, I mean, offensive tackle is the biggest, and I addressed that, you know, first round. And of course, quarterback was a massive need, and I addressed that, you know, in the trade beforehand. And you know, defensive tackle was a big need. I addressed that. Safety was a need. Addressed that. The one position that I maybe didn't address that was a need was center. But I went into that with the mindset that the Jets were going to re-sign Connor McGovern, which they did. They just re-signed him today. So that's why I did not take a center. And that's what most people have the Jets mocked or did have the Jets mocked, was to take a center second round. I went receiver instead. So I could understand maybe the knock for the need for taking that receiver, Nathaniel Dell, in the second round, because you might say, you know, this receiver room, you know, it's kind of complete. All right. It doesn't really have that much of a need. But when you look at the cap situation and you see Corey Davis is owed $10.5 million this year, and if you cut him, there's no dead cap. It makes a lot of sense to bring in a young guy on, you know, a very cheap rookie contract like Dell, and to cut Corey Davis, because Davis is never healthy either. That's a whole nother issue we could get into. But
Yep, for
I,
sure.
I think I addressed the need pretty well.
All right, so now we're going to look here. You earn 750 GM points. That's going to help you going into the future for next year's free agency, which is quite a bit of points. Again, that should help. Your final score is a 71, which again, I know that looks low, but understand again that these look lower than what they are, which ultimately ends up being a B. Now, again, this is what happens now. Again, we'll discuss all this going forward, everything that you did and the moves that you made, and we'll go back and look at it by the end of the year or halfway through the year, whenever we want to. You're more than welcome to come back and, like I said, rebut it, and we'll go back, look at the same stuff that we did, and see where we went right and where we went wrong. Now we're going to end this here. We're going to go back. We're going to talk for a few seconds just about recapping this, and then we'll end this video. All right, here we are. We are back. So it's officially a wrap. You had a pretty dang good, draft, in my opinion. You tightened up all like the loose areas on this team, in my opinion. Again, ultimately, what do you think they're going to do on Thursday now? Like, do you want them to make the moves that you made? I mean, to me, I really like the moves that you made, and I think that could help your team win and go far. So what are you hoping for here?
Yeah, Thursday, I think you'll see something pretty similar to what my draft looked like, especially with that first pick. I mean, I would be very shocked if they took any other position besides tackle. So much to, like I said before, even if a tackle weren't to fall at 13, I think they would trade down and still take tackle, because it's that big of a pressing need compared to these other needs. These other needs aren't nearly as big of needs as tackle is. Second round might be where you see a little bit of a different direction. You might see them go defensive tackle. And you know, I address that third round, but they might address that second round. I think you'll see them attack those needs, and I think they'll take, like I said, a similar strategy to my strategy, and taking players that'll contribute to the team this year rather than long-term developmental players that have to wait a couple of years to play. They're guys that are going to be ready to play right away.
Absolutely. And again, I really think, like, to me, my favorite, honestly, I mean, I love the Christopher Smith pick as well, but I mean, your first 3 picks, I mean, Dell again's gonna be more of that role guy, but between Skronsky and Ika, I just love those two. I think that they would make an immediate, and I'm pounding the table. Like, can they get, if they, because I love watching. I mean, I'm from Jersey. I love watching the Jets. I'm tired of the Giants fans. I'm gonna be honest with you, because the Jets fans, man, you poor people. I'm a Raiders fan. I know how it feels. So
You
I'm
feel it,
hoping, I'm hoping that if you can get Skronsky and Ika, I really think that this team could be really, I mean, at the next level, especially if you bring in Rodgers. And again, the deal that you made, the conditional pick and everything, that's why I think the trade grade was so high. And again, I want to stress this too. Right now, I believe, I graded, well, not me alone, but I got the report for about 15 to 20 GMs already. We're pretty high up there. And I think you're within the top 5 right now. So that shows you, even though you got Bs and B pluses, there's some GMs that are getting Cs and C pluses. So again, you did a really good job. And again, we'll rebut this and look at this again going into the future. But before we go, I want you to plug your page one more time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I just have an Instagram page. It's jets._.news. Make sure you guys check me out. I'm still below like 500 followers. Just started the page in December, but I think I do pretty decent graphics. I'm a Jets insider. I report on, news, rumors, reports, updates. And I post 2 to 3 times almost every day. Mock drafts, I provide my own takes. I do all kinds of stuff. So you guys should check me out.
Really cool content. Again, I really stress that. And Jets, make sure that when you're done here, I mean, once this video goes up, you put your link with your Instagram in the comment section below. We'll pin it to the top. If for some reason it bans your comment, because sometimes it will like hide it because you're doing a link, let me know. I can usually go in there and edit it and make sure that it's good to go. So just be like my Instagram profile and then put your link there. All right. Besides that, that's all from us. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are Built Betters.